And deep down, I think if I psychoanalyze myself, I really wanted to think that the adults know what they're doing. And that I'm the child that is recalcitrant and kicking and screaming. But deep down, the adults, the people in power at the top of the IMF know what they're doing. And my complaints and protestations, maybe they're not completely accurate. Maybe they know more than I think they do. But when these people turn around to me and say, you're right, it can't work. What we are trying to impose upon your nation can't work. But, Yanis, you must understand, we have invested so much political capital in this program. We can't go back. And your credibility, my credibility, depends on accepting it. By the way, the euro is a carbon copy of the gold standard of the 1920s. It was created in the image of the gold standard of the 1920s. So you know what happened to the gold standard of the 1920s. It gave rise to the roaring 20s, to immense financialization, immense concentration of industrial power, funded by the consolidation of the financial sector, and then Wall Street in 1929.
Enormous inequality.
Of course,
also,
enormous inequality, which is the result of
And,
this easy private money minting by the financial sector. And when the chickens came home to roost in 1929, the common currency of that era, the gold exchange standard, collapsed, started fragmenting. Very soon, the Germans hated the French hated the Germans, everybody hated the Greeks, and we descended into the abyss of the 1930s and 1940s. After our generation's 1929, which took place in 2008, guess what happened? The gold standard started fragmenting. It was called the euro in Europe. And very soon after that, the Germans started pointing moralizing fingers at the Greeks. The Greeks remembered the Nazi occupation. Everybody hated the French. And we are now in a state of disintegration where the refugees are the problem. Remember, our government won the election in January of 2015 with a mandate to speak truth to the powerful, to say no to them. And do your worst. We're not accepting any more of your toxic loans under conditions that will shrink our economy and our people further. And we won this election, but because of the system of disproportional representation, we won government with 36% of the vote. The previous governing party received something like 25%, so we had enough seats in parliament to form a government. But that's 36% of the vote. Yeah? And we had the whole media of Greece and the world completely and utterly, militantly against us. We had the central bank. Third day I was in my office. The president of the Eurogroup visited me to say, either you accept the existing policies, the ones we were elected to challenge, or your banks will be closed within a month. So this is you can't be weaker than that. We did have a strategy. We did have a secret weapon. We can talk about this later when we open this up. But when they closed our banks down, I believed that it was just a matter of days before our support would wane. And we had called for a referendum to support us to carry on fighting. So remember, we had only won 36%. The banks were closed. People didn't have access to their money. Pensioners were fainting in line in front of closed banks to get some money out in order to feed themselves. The press is bombarding, terrorizing people in their living rooms on the television set, saying to them that if they vote with us against the Troika, Armageddon is going to come and we'll be expelled from the universe, not just Europe. And those crazy, magnificent Greeks gave us 62%. Why? Because the one deficit that they could not bear was a deficit of dignity. And they had a Condorcet moment.
In the Eurozone, democracy has declined arguably even faster than it has in the United States. During this past generation of neoliberal policies, there has been a global assault on democracy. That's kind of inherent in the principles. And in the Eurozone, it's reached a remarkable level. I mean, even the Wall Street Journal, hardly a critical rag, pointed out that no matter who gets elected in a European country, whether it's communists, fascists, anybody else, the policies remain the same. And the reason is they're all set in Brussels by the bureaucracy. And the citizens of the national states have no role in this. And when they try to have a role, as in the Greek referendum, they get smashed down. That's a rare step. Mostly they are sitting by passively as victims of policies over which they have nothing to say. And what Yanis said about the Euro group is quite striking. This is a completely unelected work group, not in any remote way related to citizens' decisions, but it's basically making the decision, the choices and decisions. That's even beyond what happens here. Here it's bad enough, but that's more extreme.
In the 12 Eurogroup meetings that I attended before I resigned, I noticed in those very lengthy, incredibly intense and depressing sequences of discussions, some of them lasted more than 12 hours, the room was full of cameras, microphones. These screens, we had 30 of them. I could say, whoever, we were in the same room with people and I was watching them on television because, this is the power of the screen. You don't watch the person speaking, you watch him on the screen, or her. Yeah? And at some point it hit me. We don't need a revolution here. Somebody in the control booth, just press a button and connect all these cameras to the internet. Just imagine if that would have to happen. Huh? You don't need a treaty change, a new constitution, a revolution, nothing. Somebody just press a button. Like in a science fiction movie, you press a button and suddenly you have a new universe. Yeah? What would happen? Would Schäuble say this? I don't know, maybe he would, but you know what? It would make a difference for the Germans, the French, the Portuguese, the Greeks to hear him say those words. Instead of reading the Financial Times where people like Peter Spiegel were simply saying that Yanis Varoufakis was resisting reform in his country and he demanded more money for it. Huh? So transparency is everything. This is the first step. It's a huge revolutionary step that takes nothing more than the press of a button.